we have all encountered that time when we just couldn't forgive the other person. And I want to ask you, when you couldn't forgive the other person, whether it's your mom, your sister, your spouse, how did that make you feel? Did it do you any good? Well, if you're like me, you're probably saying no, because I've learned that unforgiveness is like eating poison and expecting the other person to die. And yeah, I know that's drastic, but think about it. We eat the poison of frustration and anger, and we expect the other person to die from that. Not really die, but yeah, you know what I mean. Well, today I have a special guest, and she is right here in Fayetteville, Georgia, right where I live. It just happens, and we have met online, not, out and about anywhere. But Toni Hebel, her specialty is helping people move past, those grudges, those frustrations that they have, and learning to be able to forgive the other person. Because when we can't do that, we are the one that suffers from that. So, welcome, Toni.
Thank you so much for having me, Connie. It's a pleasure.
Super. Okay, so today we're looking at actually marriage and moms, and we're speaking to these moms. My daughter's been with me just for the past little while because they are redoing some things on their house, and I'm reminded that it's tough being a mom. I mean, it can be exhausting, and couple that with marriage and work and responsibilities and the fast pace of life, it really, really gets tough. So, Toni, how important is it that couples learn to forgive each other?
Oh my goodness. You have no idea how important it is. It is the key to a good relationship in your marriage. It's the number one thing that we need to do in order to have a healthy marriage. And it's interesting because we've been coaching couples for 16 years, thousands. And we have found, we've actually kept stats on this. I just want to start out with this whole idea that the wound that drives what we call the torment that's causing the issue in the marriage, whether it is unfaithfulness, anger, resentment, communication issues, whatever the issue is, that wound that is driving the torment that's causing that 100% of the time predate the couple ever meeting. 100% of the time, those
Okay,
wounds predate them even meeting.
so I call that in my trainings, I call it baggage, where we
Yes,
bring that baggage with us into our relationship and we don't even realize it.
right, right. So we have to start there. We have to start with ourselves individually in order to have a healthy relationship, whether it's marriage with our children or anyone else for that matter. Yeah.
All right, so what are some of the behaviors that emerge from unforgiveness? I bet you have a list this big, right?
Yes, yes. So, and we can kind of categorize them. We do have, main buckets, I would say, but those buckets would look like depression,
Mm,
anxiety, gripping fear, panic attacks and paranoia, that category. We see any addiction is completely and 100% connected to a wound in our lives that we have not forgiven. So that could be addiction to alcohol, drugs, sexual addictions, and even food addictions for that matter. We also see another area is just in controlling and outburst of anger.
hmm.
That really heavy duty that can even be damaging physically to someone. So those are the main areas that we see unforgiveness connected to. And that when I just want to put this little hope in there, when we forgive and truly forgive from our hearts, as the Bible talks about, then we can be free of those things. And that's what we witness here in our offices is seeing people set free from all of those outbursts of anger, addictions, free, fear, those things. We see them set free just through forgiveness. The power is amazing.
And on the other hand, not forgiving is just absolutely detrimental to any relationship and to your own life. What I have
Absolutely.
found that often people self implode, or, it's like, or they explode their frustration onto everyone around them, or like I said, they self-implode where they just go and do things that ruin their life because they're holding a grudge,
Mhm.
against someone else. Some of the things I was looking at was like the silent treatment. What's that
Mhm.
look like?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's just a way that we're trying to punish the other person for what they did. It's vengeance. And, God says vengeance is his, it's not ours. Our responsibility is to forgive. And I just want to say this up front. Forgiveness does not say what, let's just use husband as the example, that what my husband did was okay. It's not okay. Jesus had to die and pay for that, and he did. According to 1 John 2:2, it says he paid for the sins of the entire world, including what my husband did or did not do that wounded me. And so if we give the silent treatment, it's just a form of vengeance. We're just trying to make them pay. And that does them no good. It does us no good.
What happens is whenever people are frustrated, I have to say I've probably given my husband the silent treatment also.
Who hasn't?
And whenever you look back, you're like, I'm really sorry. It's just that I was so frustrated. And if people have different behavior styles, and that is a true indicator of how you will handle your frustration.
Right.
And so, like, the husband may handle that stress differently than the wife, but a lot of times, how somebody handles that frustration is not about you. Like,
Right.
it's not about us. They're
No.
handling it the way they handle it, but we take it personal.
Exactly. Yeah. And much of what happens to us is not about us. It's really about what's going on in their lives. So if I've got a deep wound in my life and I haven't dealt with it, that baggage you called it,
Yeah.
then I'm going to treat others in a negative way, including my family. And that is going to affect our relationships. Hmm.
Definitely. No, I'm going to throw my grandkids into this, and hopefully, I'm not throwing them under the bus. But I've had them last week. I had them while their parents were going on a trip, and they're so sweet. Usually,
Yeah,
they're so
usually.
sweet, and they were sweet all week long. But when the parents came back around, they were vying for attention,
Yeah.
and instead of, just getting under mommy's feet and trying to get attention, they each like they became angry or sounded like, who are these children? I asked them today, I said, what did you do with my sweet grandchildren? But that's what happens when we get frustrated from something. And I would have to say that holding a grudge or holding on to that unforgiveness hurts you worse than it hurts the other person.
Yes. And those are signs that there's something wrong deep down, even in a child. Children also need to learn to forgive. That is so important because they are wounded. Now, their wounds may not look like ours, but out of, again, 100% of the people we meet with, their deep wounds happen before the age of 18. And
Hmm.
so, it hurts when, and it's not saying that wounds are not always equated to sin. Like it wasn't sinful that your kids went away for a vacation. That's not sinful. But it could have wounded their children because their children felt left out, left alone, maybe even rejected even though they weren't, but that those feelings can come. And so we don't forgive people so much as we forgive wounds. We forgive what happened to us. So the acting out is just a sign that something deeper is going on that needs attention.
For them, like their dog's not with them and
Yeah.
they're not at their house. Yeah, they
Right.
got plenty of attention last week from grandma and grandpa, but yeah, I
Absolutely.
assure you. But we do, according to our own behavior style or personality style, we do act out differently. And another way that uh unforgiveness takes a toll is criticism. And some people tend to criticize more than others. And criticism in a marriage causes, you start to feel like you can't do anything right. And that definitely comes between people when the one you're supposed to enjoy time with and love the most criticizes you and you can't please them. But really, they're
Right.
frustrated about something else, right?
Right. Most of the time we find that we wound other people in the same way in which we were wounded. So if I'm very critical of my husband, most likely there's somebody in my past that was critical of me. We see
Mm.
the pattern many times handed down. And to be critical of someone is also carries judgment. There's a judgmentalism that goes along with that. And when you're critical of someone, what you're doing is you're actually shaming them. Shaming is another way to say shame. I guess the language of shame says, I'm not good enough. No matter how hard I try, I can't measure up. And that's what the person who receives the criticism feels like.
And the person who is always doing the criticism just thinks, I'm sorry, but this would be my perspective. They
Right.
think they do everything better than anyone else, right?
Well, that's true, but they actually feel like they're not good enough. People who are critical carry shame. There's
Mhm.
someone in their past that has said, you're not good enough and you need to measure up. Perfectionism can come into that as well. And so those people that do that really is just a flashing green light, a red light that says, there's a shame wound deep in you that you need to look at and ask the Lord about. Yeah.
And there you go again, that is something that's passed on to the
Right.
next generation or passed on to your spouse. Okay, so one more in that area was keeping scores. What do you know about keeping scores whenever you're frustrated with what your spouse has done?
Keeping scores. Well, in Matthew 18, verse 21, I believe it is, or 22, it said the Bible says Jesus is speaking and he says, you need to forgive 70 times 7. In the Greek, that means unlimited. Times upon times is the literal translation. And so if we're keeping score, that's proof that we haven't forgiven, because we won't keep score if we've forgiven. Because when we forgive, we're no longer carrying that. We've put that at the cross, that wound at the cross, and it's done. It is finished. And so we won't carry that wound. We won't keep score. So again, these things we're speaking of are just reflections of something deeper going on. So if someone keeps score, if I keep score with my husband, then I am just declaring to the world, to myself, that I have never forgiven him for that particular thing that I'm keeping score on.
Well, and it's not a godly thing, but to be honest, I mean, sometimes aren't we so upset with somebody, or maybe they did something really bad to us? Well, okay, so I'm going to go into from there. I'm going to go into there's 5 problems that arise from holding a grudge. And the first thing would be that you have to be aware, and that's what Toni does. She helps you be aware of what it is. Because often we have those emotional feelings, like you said, of depression or frustration or anger, and we don't even realize why we are having them. And so, but there's problems that arise from those things. So one of the first things would be a problem is communication breakdown.
Right. Yeah.
And so, how can people communicate better? How can they open up?
Yeah. Well, that's a big topic. Books are written on just that one line. Um, so what we do is communication can't truly be completely open and secure and safe until the torment we're carrying from unforgiveness goes. So, what we encourage, and I'm going to leave with your listeners some resources and a free download for them that they can use to get to that point. But if there is a tormentor connected to me right now because I've not forgiven based on Matthew 18 and it's a discipline from the Lord, um, I might think my words are coming out a certain way, but they get all jumbled and the listener gets them a different way. So,
I call that tone of
communication.
voice.
Exactly. Tone of voice, your look on your face, and yeah, it just won't work until we really have forgiven first. That's just got to be your basis because otherwise you will be speaking out of vengeance and hatred and I'll make him pay. Those kind of things. Communication won't work because communication isn't what's said, it's what's heard.
Oh, yeah. It seems like just lately, even with my daughter here for a bit, it is I say something and she and I are so much alike, but she even hears it differently. And my husband has said something to me lately, and then or I said something to him and he repeated it back like I had said something else. I'm like, no, 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 I didn't mean it like that. And so communication is that thing, understanding how you each are either very indirect and you really hardly ever really say anything communicating, or if you're so direct that your spouse gets it all the time, right? They get it all the time. Um, but there's a problem in communication breakdown because if we're not aware of it and we don't talk about it,
Mhm.
then we can't fix it. We
Right.
can't move past it. We can't get
Yeah.
to that forgiveness if
Right.
we don't talk about it. And if,
Exactly.
sometimes one person's so stubborn and they won't say they're sorry.
Right. And so we don't forgive based on someone saying, I'm sorry. We forgive before they say, I'm sorry, actually, which is the pattern Christ had with us. That's who we do.
Oh, but Tony, that's hard.
It is hard. It's a choice. It's not a feeling.
Uh,
I want to make that clear. It's not a feeling that we choose to do that because it's not about them. My forgiveness can't be based upon their behavior or their repentance. Saying I'm sorry. What can I do to make it right? My forgiveness needs to be based on the cross, and that's it. But in the
yikes.
communication process, there are some little tools that we use that I think are beneficial. One, for me being the wife, so I see myself as under the authority of my husband, and God is over him. That's how I view marriage. And lots of times I'll want to move above him because I want to tell him what to do. And he will tell you that I'm gifted in more things than he is. So it would be natural for me to take over in certain things. But one thing I've learned to do that's been very helpful for my own heart and also for our communication is before I just say something to him, like I've got a suggestion on, or I want to do something, or I want to change something, or whatever, I will ask him this question. And I must say it has to be done in again, the right motive, not one of manipulation, but truly from my heart. I'll say, Bruce, could I ask you a question? Is there, would it be okay? Would it be okay if I asked you a question? The second thing, I would take it even deeper. I'd say, um, would it be okay if I made a suggestion? I got to, can you receive a suggestion from me? I pose it as a question. I've got a suggestion. This, would that be okay if I share my suggestion with you? And if he says no, then I will not respond. But if he says yes, then that gives me complete freedom to share my suggestion in whatever the issue is with him. Another thing we do is when we're working with couples, if we see a wife or a husband like this,
Body language.
body language, we will ask them to please uncross their arms. And if they're angry, really angry, we'll ask them to keep their hands open like this. Now, that sounds very weird. It's just a physical thing, but you would not believe the change in a heart that takes place when your hands on, you can't see my lap right now, but when we open our hands and just lay them on our lap and keep our hands open while we're talking, it will keep our heart open to receive and have more compassion towards our mate or whoever it is we're talking with. So again, if we see them clench fist or like this, we'll say, would you please unclench? Would you please, fold your arms and just lay your hands on your lap?
Because they're not really aware that they're doing that. It's just
No.
a function of the body of
Right.
protection, of folding or closing up or whatever. And so
This closes your heart. It's a physiological thing that happens that I can't explain, but I just know I see it all the time. So when we undo all that, then our hearts are open for some safe communication.
I like that because communication or lack of it can make or break any relationship.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And we need to ask the Lord to be in us what our mate needs. Because I don't want to ever cut off the communication in my marriage. I've been married for 45 years now. And I would never want to cut off or make my husband feel that he's not in a safe place, that he can't share his heart with me. Because that's what makes a good relationship. Living like roommates and having surface relationship and communication that's just empty. And I want my marriage to be full and rich and deep. And so my responsibility in that is to keep my heart in a good place through forgiveness. He wounds me sometimes and I wound him sometimes. So none of us are exempt from that. But if I continue to live in that place of forgiveness, then I can make him feel that he's safe to share his heart with me.
And it's inevitable because we all act up at times and we all have problems. And sometimes some just have it worse than others. Being
Yes.
aware of it and working towards meeting in the middle and keeping your voices soft.
Yes. Yelling. And if you find yourself talking really high and fast and like this, You're actually speaking from your mind. You're not speaking from your heart. Your heart will have pauses. Your voice will be lower. It'll be slower. And so if I'm going to speak from my heart, that's the way I need to communicate in a verbal way.
To be listened to. You have to be to listen to. Because when it gets loud or fussy, nobody really wants to listen. All right. So also something that comes from holding a grudge, which is unforgiveness, is emotional distance. And if couples want to have a 45th anniversary like you, and actually, remember we talked about before on our earlier podcast last year that I've been married 45 years also.
Oh, okay, I forgot.
Yeah, it's looking pretty
Awesome.
good on us, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But emotional distance. So when you're not communicating, when somebody's not listening, they're saying they don't care, or you feel like they're saying they don't care. And we always say hurting people hurt others.
Right.
So hurting people don't even realize they're hurting their spouse. They're just emotionally in a mess. And that's why it's so important to get some help.
It is. It is because you know, most people need help when it comes to forgiving. It's really difficult to do that on your own. That's why we do what we do. We're here in Fayetteville, but we also coach people over Zoom. So that's wherever you are, it does not matter. We coach in person and over Zoom, and we travel a lot, so we coach wherever we are. But we do need to deal with that baggage. We need to put that at the cross because it will affect everything. Like I've said before, it'll affect our emotions. And like you said, hurting people hurt people. But
Hmm.
also the opposite is true. Free people will free people. So when I'm free, then I'm not trying to protect or defend. I don't need to because I'm free. All that stuff is gone. It's off of me. It's just amazing.
Amen and amen.
So then I can impart freedom to my spouse or my
That's right.
friends or my children. And that's what I want the most is to live in a household of freedom.
But if one spouse is presenting freedom and the other one's in bondage, basically,
Mhm. Mhm.
if you can't communicate and figure that out yourself, you really do need to get help because there's so many marriages that don't make it. And
Yeah.
whatever the problem is, you're going to pass it to your kids because they learn from watching you instead of what you tell them. You could tell them what you want them to do all day long, but they're going to end up doing what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's embedded in them. That's all they see. It's a pattern they see. And they are most likely have been wounded by you, by me, by your husband or my husband, so and so on. And so, in fact, there was one point in our family's history back, I want to say 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago now, where we spent 11 hours with our children who were in their late teens and early 20s at the time. And we had a forgiveness day, 11
Oh,
hours of forgiving things that had happened outside our family towards us, within us, husband to wife, parents to children, children to the sibling rivalry, all that. And it completely changed our family for 11 hours. And it wasn't planned. It was just one of these things that the Lord it unfolded. And it was the most transformational day in our family's history.
it's kind of like dumping out all the trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't get cleaned up until you've dumped out all the trash because there's no space.
Well, and I'm so grateful that that happened. And again, it was a gift from God. It wasn't something we came up with. But I'm so grateful for that. I encourage all families to do that. And when you're doing that, to give your children permission to say whatever they want to say without feeling like they're going to be judged or punished in any way. Like we told them, you can say whatever you want to say. We will not get upset with you. We want you to be honest. And but what's so wonderful about it is it happened all before they were married. So they walked into their marriages a lot more prepared because the baggage was gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
be there. And you know what? I truly believe that kids can speak and tell me whatever they need. And I always said in the right tone of voice. I really don't believe in kids bad mouthing their parents.
No.
And I know when they're doing that, they might be frustrated. But just like y'all sat and aired it, it's like, what's really bothering you?
Yeah.
Teaching your children to communicate.
Right.
so that they can be aware of their behavior. And then that sends forth the next generation not to have the same problems as
Right.
you're having at the time.
Well, sometimes they may be seeing how we react to things and they're just patterning that. I remember years ago when one of my children came home from school and they were just hateful to me. Just walked in the door and just, bad mouth and disrespectful and all that. And I tell you, this is not me. My flesh would have not done this. It was not me. But the Holy Spirit put me in this place to see past that. And I asked them, I said, did something happen at school today that hurt your feelings?
Mm, there you go.
And then, bam, the tears flowed. They came to me, they got in my lap, even though they were too big for my lap, and just boo-hooed. And I was able to help them at that point. But if I were to go with what I saw when they first came in the door, that would have caused even more wounding in them. But the Holy Spirit brought it into my heart to see them, to see what was really going on. So when we see these behaviors that are negative, it's not, again, like you said, it's not about us. There's something else that's been going on that they need a listening ear and a compassionate ear. So if I'm truly living Christ's life, I'm not thinking about me and I just die to my desires, but to be Jesus to them and to have that listening ear.
And for those of us who are God-fearing, God-believing, it is the standard. And I have to say, in the world today, there's so many that have no standard. What is it, Tony? They say if you'll fall for if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the culture is today. They I don't know if I can repeat it. Can you repeat it? If you don't believe in something, you will fall for
All for anything.
anything. And so God's standards and God's way keeps us all in line, and it's a good life, right?
It is. His ways are not to bring us into bondage, but to bring us into freedom.
Yes, ma'am. That is right. So to finish up those five problems, because I got three questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
The five problems is increased conflict. Yeah, we've seen that. Negative does not create positive. Two negatives is a negative, right? Um, loss of trust. Whenever you're frustrated and you can't get along, and then what happens with that? I always say on my the Extraordinary Marriage podcast, you want to be friends with your spouse, and if you're not liking each other very good, it's not going to be good in any way. But I have three questions for you, Tony. So these are questions to help solve those grudges in marriage. Because, like I said earlier, when we're really mad about something or we're really hurt, it's hard to let go of. And I had an instance some while back where a person didn't say they were sorry. And I just about, even with all that I know, I just about couldn't deal with that because it would just keep coming at me because I couldn't let it go. But all I needed was somebody to say, I'm so sorry. But some people don't do that.
Right.
Okay, so what specific grievances do I need to address with my partner, and how can I express them without being accusatory?
Well, it's important to separate your partner, excuse me. It's important to separate your partner from what they do. Like, they're not defined by what they do. They're created in the image of God. And so we separate their behavior from their personhood. So when we're talking to them, we can say something like, I'll just use my husband, I'm sorry, for example.
That's okay. Once you suck air wrong, then
It's
it's
just
hard
it's the
to.
allergies are the pollen in Georgia right now is
Yes.
crazy. So when I talk to my husband, I may say, Bruce, it really hurts me. No, first of all, I would say, Bruce, I love you. I respect you. I believe in you. But what you did really hurts me. So I'm just asking you to consider that. So it's like talking to them, separating who they are as a person, but addressing their behavior. They're not their behavior. So
Not I hate you, but I hate your behavior.
right, I love you, but what you're doing is causing a friction in our relationship, and I'll continue to respect you, but you just need to know that I'm okay with you, but I'm not okay with this. That's one way of dealing with the conflict.
All right. And then how can we create a safe space for open dialogue about our feelings and frustrations, allowing both partners to feel heard? Is there a special way that y'all do that, helping people feel heard? And
Right. Well, that kind of goes back to what I just said about separating, but also this is kind of a crazy way to think of this. All of us are going to be a dominant of a thinker, feeler, or a doer.
I've heard that before.
So if we're a thinker, we think all the time. And thinkers, because they think all the time, are quiet, more quiet. So if you're married to a feeler feels and they look at things through their lens of their heart. And if they get angry with someone, they're going to pull back and do that silent treatment. So if they're married to a thinker and the thinker is silent, they're going to think that their spouse is angry with them when the spouse is just thinking. So it's easy to accuse that way. So, but there's a really neat study that's been done on thinker, feeler, doers and their energy levels. This is kind of a random thing I'm throwing out here.
I like
But
it.
a thinker's energy level starts in the morning. They wake up and they are ready to go. They're early risers. That's a thinker. And they will go throughout the day, their energy level will decrease. They get to about 8 o'clock and they're done. They're just done. A feeler is the opposite. They would love morning if it started after 12 o'clock noon. And so their energy level starts low and it goes high. They're the ones that want to stay up and watch the movies till midnight. So their energy goes into the evening. So they're opposite of the thinker. A doer, on the other hand, wakes up and just goes like straight across. Their energy level stays the same almost the entire day, but when they hit the pillow, they're out like just like that. So that's their bent on an energy level. So if you're a thinker and you're married to a feeler, it's important to have your communications sometime in the middle of the day when your energy levels are close to the same. Because if the husband wants to talk at 9 o'clock, the thinker can't even think then. They can't even they're exhausted. And the opposite is true. If you have a thinker gets up first thing in the morning and wants to talk to their feeler husband, they're going to be like, I need 2 cups of coffee first. I can't even communicate. So it's finding those times, even to go on, we'd like to have a date once a week where we just, even if it's going to the grocery store, we just do something together. And that's important to do when you're both and that energy level is close to the same. And it may not always be able to do that, but that's just important even during your communication to recognize, I'll say to Bruce, I can't talk about this right now. I can't even think. I can't even make a decision because it's 10 o'clock. I'm really tired. So can we discuss this tomorrow? Because I'm a thinker and he's a feeler and the doer is just all the way across. So they work either way. So that's one idea, but that safe place again starts with yourself. It starts with you taking care of forgiving whatever it is the spouse has done to you first before you even have a conversation, because your conversation will be tainted by the way your heart is, and your heart, if it's going to be free, needs to forgive first. And I want to plug this right now, this opportunity for you. If you go to our website, forgivingfor.com, and you just scroll down, I believe it says Get the Forgiveness Guide. I would suggest you just throw your email in there and we will send you what we call the 7 protocols of forgiveness. Our brand new book just came out like this, our new second edition. This is available too, but the forgiveness protocols, it's this, but it will be done in a digital way for you to have. And so it's basically we don't like to call them steps because it's not like you do this and this happens. It's more of a protocol. But the first 5 are how to deal with the wounds of your past, how to deal with that baggage. So it'll be very clear to help you deal with the wounds of your past. And so we would love for you to have that. I just want to make that clear before we go any further.
Well, I like that, Tony, because what I have found with the extraordinary marriage, where I help people with get along with their personality style differences, because they do that, is that it is that baggage that causes trouble in the first place. And so
Absolutely.
forgiveness is so important. And So I think that everyone should get that because they either need to forgive their mom or forgive their son or forgive their husband or forgive somebody. And it's very important to know how to forgive.
Yeah.
Some people naturally forgive easily, and if that's not you, when our listeners today, if that's not you, then you really need that because you break relationships. And Toni and I were talking right before we started today, and we were, or actually, it might have been somebody else I was talking to earlier today. We were talking about the importance of our relationships and spending time together and enjoying one another.
Right.
And if you have that unforgiveness between you, it comes between you. And it comes between you and God too, because you've not forgiven. And He tells us to forgive. But really, when we forgive, we are the beneficiary. We benefit, right? Because we're not carrying around that baggage as we've talked about before.
Yeah, and forgiveness is, you may have been taught this as a child differently, but really forgiveness is between you and God. It's not between you and that person. We would never suggest you even go to that person and say, "Hey, I forgave you." They're going to be, "Forgive me for what?" They're going to
That's
give you
right.
more issues. So, no, this is something you do privately with a witness is really good so that they can say, "Hey, I was there when you forgave." But yeah, it's something that you do privately. So that guide will help you walk through that so you can then have a free heart.
All right, Toni, so they can look you up on, I think it's Forgiving Forward. Is that correct?
Yes, forgivingforward.com.
And that's Toni Hebel. And make sure you grab her free gift right below this video. And thank you guys for listening today. Thank you for being with me, Toni.
You're welcome. Loved it.